but when we got it over we found it was not adapted to this country. Because in Australia they have to be able to read their ballot. Now the question was, how could we adapt it to our conditions? Someone discovered that if you should put a symbol at the head of each column, like a rooster, or an eagle, or a hand holding a hammer, that if a man has intelligence to know the difference between a rooster and an eagle, he will know which political party to vote for. And when the ballot was adapted, it was a very beautiful ballot, it looked like a page from life. Now almost any American could vote that ballot, or if she had not that intelligence to know. The difference between an eagle and a rooster, we could take the eagle out and put in the hen. Now when we take so much pains to adapt the ballot to the male intelligence of the United States, we should be very humble when we talk about female ignorance. Now if we should take a vote and the men had to read their ballot in order, to vote it, more women could vote than men. But when the government says not only that you must be 21 years of age, a resident of the community and native born or naturalized, those are qualifications, but when it says that an elector must be a male, that is not a qualification for citizenship. That is an insurmountable barrier. Between one half of the people and the other half of the citizens and their rights as citizens. No such nation can call itself a republic. It is only an aristocracy. That barrier must be removed before the government can become a republic, and that is exactly what we are asking right now. That the last step in the evolutionary process be taken on November 2d. And that this great state of New York shall become in fact as it is in theory. A part of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Men know the inconsistencies themselves. They realize it in one way while they do not realize it in another. Because you never heard a man make a political speech when he did not speak of this country as a whole, as though the thing existed which does not exist, and that is that the people were equally free. Because you hear them declare over and over again on the 4th of July, under God the people rule. They know it is not true, but they say it with a great hurrah. And they repeat over and over again that clause from the Declaration of Independence. Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And they see how they can prevent half of us from giving our consent to anything, and then they give it to us on the 4th of July in 2 languages. So if it is not true in one, it will be in the other. Vox populi, vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And the orator forgets that in the people's voice there is a soprano as well as a bass. If the voice of the people is the voice of God, how are we ever going to know what God's voice is when we are content to listen to a bass solo? Now if it is true that the voice of the people is the voice of God, we will never know what the deity's voice. In government is until the bass and soprano are mingled together, the result of which will be the divine harmony. Take any of the magnificent appeals for freedom, which men make. and rob them of their universal application, and you take the very life and soul out of them. Where is the difficulty? Just in one thing and one thing only, that men are so sentimental. We used to believe that women were the sentimental sex. But they cannot hold a tallow candle compared with the arc light of the men. Men are so sentimental in their attitude about women that they cannot reason about them. Now men are usually very fair to each other. I think the average man recognizes that he has no more right to. Anything at the hands of the government than has every other man. He has no right at all to anything to. Which every other man has not an equal right with himself. He says, why have I a right to certain things in the government? Why have I a right to? Life and liberty. Why have I a right to this or this? Does he say because I am a man? Not at all, because I am human, and being human I have a right to everything which belongs to humanity. And every right which any other human being has, I have. And then he says of his neighbor, and my neighbor he also is human, therefore every right which belongs to me as a human being, belongs to him as a human being. And I have no right to anything under the government to which he is not equally entitled. And then up comes a woman, and then they say now she's a woman. She is not quite human. But she is my wife, or my sister, or my daughter, or an aunt, or my cousin. She is not quite human. She is only related to a human. and being related to a human will take care of her. So we have had that caretaking human being to look after us, and they have not recognized that women too are equally human with men. Now if men could forget for a minute and believe the anti-suffragists say that we want men to forget that we are related to them. They don't know men, if for a minute they could forget our relationship and remember that we are equally human with themselves, then they would say, yes. And this human being, not because she is a woman, but because she is human, is entitled to every privilege and every right under the government which I, as a human being, am entitled to. The only reason men do not see as fairly in regard to women as they do in regard to each other is because they have looked upon us from an altogether different plane than what they have. Looked at men. That is because women have been the homemakers while men have been the so-called protectors. In the period of the world's civilization when people needed to be protected, I know that they say that men protect us now, and when we ask them what they are protecting us from, the only answer they can give is from themselves. I do not think that men need any very great credit for protecting us from themselves. They are not protecting us from any special thing from which we could not protect ourselves except themselves. Now this old-time idea of protection was all right when the world needed this protection. But today the protection in civilization comes from within and not from without. What are the arguments, which our good anti-friends give us? We know that lately they have stopped to argue and call suffragists all sorts of creatures. If there is anything we believe that we do not believe, we have not heard about them. So the cry goes out of this. The cry of the infant's mind. The cry of a little child. The anti-suffragists' cries are all the cries of little children who are afraid of the unborn and are forever crying. The goblins will catch you if you don't watch out. So that anything that has not been should not be, and all that is right, when as a matter of fact if the world believed that we would be in a static condition and never move, except back like a crab. And so the cry goes on. When suffragists are feminists, and when I ask what that is, no one is able to tell me. I would give anything to know what a feminist is. They say, would you like to be a feminist? If I could find out, I would. You either have to be masculine or feminine, and I prefer feminine. Then they cry that we are socialists and anarchists. Just how a human can be both at the same time, I really do not know. If I know what socialism means, it means absolute government and anarchism means no government at all. So we are feminists, socialists. Anarchists and Mormons or spinsters. Now that is about the list. I have not heard the last speech. Now, as a matter of fact, as a unit we are nothing, as individuals we are like all other individuals. We have our theories, our beliefs, but as suffragists we have but one belief, but one principle, but one. theory, and that is the right of a human being to have a voice in the government. Under which he or she lives, on that we agree, if on nothing else. Whether we agree or not on religion or politics, we are concerned. A clergyman asked me the other day, by the way, what church does your official board belong to? I said I don't know. He said, don't you know what religion your official board believes? I said, really it never occurred to me, but I will missing text them up and see. They are not elected to my board because they believe in any particular church. We had no concern either as to what we believe as religionists or as to what we believe as women in regard to theories of government. Except that one fundamental theory in the right of democracy. We do not believe in this fad or the other, but whenever any question is to be settled in any community, then the people of that community shall settle that question, the women people equally with the men people. That is all there is to it, and yet when it comes to arguing our case they bring up all sorts of arguments. And the beauty of it is they always answer all their own arguments. They never make an argument, but they answer it. When I was asked to answer one of their debates, I said, what is the use? Divide up their literature and let them destroy themselves. I was followed up last year by a young, married woman from New Jersey. She left her husband home for 3 months to tell the women that their place was at home. And that they could not leave home long enough to go to the ballot box. And she brought all her arguments out in pairs and backed them up by statistics. The anti-suffragists can gather more statistics than any other person I ever saw. And there is nothing so sweet and calm as when they say, you cannot deny this, because here are the figures, and figures never lie. Well, they don't, but some liars figure.